Okay, we are now starting on standard costs and variances, and this is kind of a bit of a continuation from budgets. We're going to start off with how to create a flexible budget using a base amount of sales. And the first thing we look at here is here's our fixed budget based on sales of 7,000 units. And this was what you might call a standard. So then we're going to extrapolate that 7,000 units using it as a standard base. And we're going to figure out how much it would be to do 6,000 units and how much it would be to do 8,000 units. We've kind of set a standard that said within this range, these are the costs that will be, and they won't change. The only thing you have to calculate here is, first thing you have to look at is variable costs. Now, variable costs are going to go up and down in this budget. So let's distinguish variable cost. Well, we know direct materials would be a variable cost. Direct labor, yes. Production supplies are related directly to the product, so they would vary also. The plant manager's salary wouldn't. That would be a fixed cost, right? No matter how many I make, I've got to pay him that amount of money. So that's fixed, and that's out of our cost of goods sold. Now let's go down to our selling. Well, sales commissions, they're obviously going to vary with the amount sold. Packaging for the product would obviously vary. Advertising would probably stay about the same no matter how many you sold, unless you went on a big advertising campaign for a specific item, and in this case we're not going to. And that administrative costs are not going to change. They're going to be what they are. And then depreciation also is not going to change according to production. So that becomes fixed. Insurance, it would be the same. That would be a fixed cost. And office rent, unless you had to rent more office space. But in this case, we don't. So now we've selected out our variable and our fixed costs. So now I have to figure out the variable cost. And to do that, I'm going to divide this 280,000 in materials by 7,000 and come up with a variable cost, and we'll call that VC, of $40. Now, I can just copy this down because I have variable costs the next two. Oh, guess what, guys? I did not, E3 needs to be anchored so that it doesn't move. Now let's come back up here. It's E2 that needs to be anchored. Sorry, guys. So you get to learn a little bit about Excel. So now, since I've anchored that, and I've anchored that 7,000, it should give me the variable cost. And let's just kind of center this so it's a little prettier. So where else? This is fixed. That's going to be what it's going to be. This is going to be a variable cost. So I'm going to divide by that to give me that cost. Fixed again. No. Fixed. Everything else is fixed. So now let's move down, and we have our variable costs, and I'm going to transfer those to the direct materials and the direct labor and the products. And so all of these costs have been transferred down from here. I didn't get packaging, did I? Sorry. I'll just pull that. Should be $22. Equal this divided by 7,000. So $22. So all of those get transferred down to here. And now you want to transfer the other costs that you had for this $7,000 down into the appropriate spots. And those numbers are all given right here. So you transfer this down. And now we can do some calculations. So our total variable costs are $177. And let's see what else we have in here. We had to calculate what our sales would be. So we have 6,000, and this, let's see, what is our sales per unit? If I take this and divide it by 7,000, I'm selling it for $400 a unit, right? So if I take 6,000 times $400, I come up with 2.4 million in sales. And same thing for the 8,000, I come up with 3.2 million. And here's our per unit. So now we are ready to calculate the flexible budget here. And I bet you can guess what you're going to do. You're going to multiply that 40 times 6,000, the 70 times 6,000, the production cost, 25 times 6,000. So you kind of get an idea here. And you come up with total cost, variable cost of 1,062,000. You do the same thing for the 8,000, and you'll come up with 1,416,000. So you can see it's pretty predictable what's going on here. This gives you the contribution margin now. So we're taking our sales minus our variables and coming up with a contribution margin. And here it is per item. So now all you'll have to do is transfer your fixed cost. Well, your fixed costs we already selected, and they come to 366, so you transfer that amount down. And now they don't change across the board. So as you, so this is your contribution margin, and these are your fixed. So this becomes your income from operations by subtracting the fixed from the contribution margin. This is sort of a standard set of costs. Now, what do you do with this, and why do I care? Well, that's where variances come into play. And here's a standard cost here. We've decided that direct materials are 6 pounds, and each pound should cost $8 a pound. Those are standard costs. Our actual was 48,000 pounds used at $8.10 per pound. Now, looking at that, you're obviously going to say, well, okay, so units manufactured were 8,000. So how many pounds should I really have used here as I compare? 48,000, obviously. Now, you look at this and you say, whoa, we're way over. Because instead of using 48,000, we used 48.5, and instead of actual what we paid was 810. So now you have to sit back and you have to say, okay, were we just totally inefficient? What caused this difference, and how much on each side? So we do something called the variance comparison. So what you do, let's just look at this so you can get the hang of it. This is our actual quantity times our actual price. So this product actually cost us, or this direct material cost us $392,850. So now I want to know how much the price affected it and how much the quantity affected it. So if I take my actual quantity and multiply it times the standard price, I find out if I had used the standard price, if I had even if I had overused the material at the standard price, it should have only cost me $388,000. It cost me $392. So because of this, the price difference, or the quantity difference, okay, increased the cost of that by $4,850. That's called a negative variance, or an unfavorable variance. Now on the other side, if I look at this and I say, okay, what if my standard quantity had been correct and my standard price? It should have only cost me $384,000. So that variance is an unfavorable variance of $4,000, looking at the quantity now. This looked at the price and said, okay, that variance, or that loss, or increased, was due to price, $4,850. Another $4,000 was due to the quantity because it was different. So you can decide, okay, this is how much I lost because of the price, and this is how much I lost because of the quantity. Now, why is that important? Well, maybe the price you couldn't do anything about. I mean, it is what it is. But overuse of the quantity you might be able to control. So this is a way of finding out what you can control and how you might be able to monitor this. Let's look at a labor variance. Now in a labor variance, we've got standard here, and we have actual here. Now this is the same problem. We should have used 2 hours at $16, and we had 18,000. So we should have used 16,000 hours, right? Well, we only used 15,700 hours, but we paid $16.50 per hour. So, okay, how much? In this case, we don't know what our variance is. So let's look. The actual cost was 15,000 times, this needs to back off here, $16.50. So we actually paid $259,050. Now, if I want to know what the difference is here, and if I gained or I lost, so to speak, I'll take the actual hours at 1570 times what it should have cost me, and find out I paid less. I should have paid less, and that was by $7,850. So if I'd had the actual hours times the standard rate, I should have paid $251, I didn't. I paid $259. So part of the difference here is the additional hours. Now let's find out what the cost did to us. So in this case, we should have, here is our standard cost, and here is our standard hours, and we should have paid $256 for this. So you can see we have a positive. We actually paid less at this point. So we had a positive, or a favorable variance, when looking at the efficiency, because we used less time. We used more money, but we used less time than we should have. So if you put these together, okay, you had an overall unfavorable of $3,050. And that means you're comparing, this is what it cost us, this is what it should have cost us. Now, we used less time, but we spent more money. So you can see how each of those factors affected the variance. Now, one more. And this one is looking at, we're just going to look at the direct material price and the quantity variance. So we're doing labor and the labor and the material together in both of this. So let's look. So for direct materials, our actual price was, I bet you guys could do this yourself. Why don't you try doing this yourself? Because I bet you can do that. And finish that up. And If you have problems, email me and I'll do a video on it. I think you can do this yourself. I'm sure you can. So here we go. Now, homework same way, okay? You'll be good on